Hey mamas, you're listening to the Balanced Working Mama podcast, the only podcast teaching you how to balance your work, motherhood, and wellness. I am Dr. Amber Thornton, clinical psychologist and mama wellness consultant. Each week we dive into tips and strategies and much more so that you too can become a balanced working mama. Let's dive in. All right, Tosh. So I want to now ask you a little bit more about the other part of what you do, because again, you're so talented. You know so much stuff. And I know the other part of what you do regard or involves positive parenting and positive discipline. So to start us off, I do want to hear from you. What do those terms mean? Like specifically the terms positive parenting and positive discipline, because I think one thing that I'm noticing, especially for millennial parents, there's all these types of parenting. There's like positive parenting, positive discipline, conscious parenting, gentle parenting, like all these things. And I don't know if they're different. I don't know if they're the same. I don't know if they're related. So like you tell us, how should we be thinking about these terms, especially the two terms that you're most familiar with?
Absolutely. So positive, I think of it all as positive parenting, all of them. But the idea is that you're parenting your child positively without punishment or reward, and you're respecting them as a human. Now, here's where it gets interesting. I look at the other names as brands, right? Because you have conscious discipline, you have positive discipline, you have there's so many, but they're all brands of positive parenting, right? Because they all have different foundational bases, they have different focuses. Some may be focused on specific behaviors, some may focus on needs, some may focus on just how you consciously think, which is, I believe, what conscious discipline does, is more thinking about what you're doing. They all have a different foundational base and focus, but all of them have that foundation of positive parenting to me. Mm-hmm. I chose positive discipline because of the kind versus infirm. So having that respect for the parent in the firm by having those limits and boundaries, but also having that respect and empathy for the child with the kind. Mm-hmm. And then also because of the Adlerian basis. So Alfred Adler's psychology and theories basis. That mm-hmm. was why it resonated more with me. I will say that when I was initially doing my research as a young, not yet parent person, when I looked at some of them, they felt too permissive for me. So there are sometimes some brands of positive parenting, the idea is that your child is a whole being. Mm-hmm. And that they should have all autonomy and say in what they do and how they interact with their day, right? So when you get into that with kids, can get kind of sticky, right? So would you like to brush your teeth? It's time to brush your teeth. No, why not? You know that your teeth, need to be brushed or they could fall out. Okay, they can fall out. I don't want to brush my teeth. And then if you're conscious,
you're like, okay.
if you're allowing them to have full autonomy and say over their lives, yep, then they just don't brush their teeth and the teeth right out of their cup fall out, right? I don't necessarily. I think there has to be some limits and boundaries as a parent. And so that was also why positive discipline was more so exonerated with me, was because it was the idea, okay, here's the limit. Your teeth have to be brushed, but you can pick when your teeth are brushed. You can pick what we use to brush your teeth, how we do it, and when, but your teeth have to be brushed. Limits and boundaries, so I think that that's important, having those limits and boundaries for parents, because I look at it as we are the guides for our children. When I'm talking to my parents, I'll laugh and joke and say, you are on a team. You ever had a job where they made you the team lead, but you didn't really get a raise? It was like a little bitty small raise, and you're still having to work with those people to get the product out. But if something goes wrong, you're to blame because you're the team lead. And if something goes right, you're the one that gets the praise because you're the team lead. And it's your responsibility to redistribute it on to I said, so yeah, think of yourself as the team lead with a whole bunch of brand new brand spanking new team member coworkers that you got to train up. That's your job as a parent in positive discipline.
I love the way you described that. Thank you. Because that helps me too, because I think this is something that I'm aspiring to do as well, like just in my parenting. And so like I'm reading a few books right now. And so this actually kind of leads to my next question, but like I think one fear that I noticed that I have, and this is so related to your work, which I'm so glad that you do it. I realized that I am very afraid of like, I don't want to be too controlling, like some experiences that I've had in the past with my own parents. But I also am like super afraid to become this super permissive parent. And I feel like some shame somewhere down in my body of like, you just gonna let them kids run wild. And that's not gonna be the case. But like, I'm afraid that if I venture into like, you know, positive parenting or conscious parenting, all these branches of positive parenting, that means no discipline. And so I'm learning that that is not true. And I think that is definitely a barrier for me that I'm working to unlearn, is that, you know, these more gentle and positive approaches is not an absence of discipline. And I think that that's something that I notice a lot of families, especially Black families, really struggle with when introducing this idea of like positive parenting. They're like, nope, because that's not what we do. And I think I'm so glad that there are people like you who are like, actually, we can do this. And you like really break it down for us in a way that really resonates. And so I want to know, does that resonate with you at all? But also, what are some other challenges that you see moms face, especially Black moms or Black families, when they're wanting to encounter or like learn like positive parenting and positive discipline?
So yes, it's part of that's, I don't want to say that's a part of, but it is a part of the reason I also chose to be certified, especially under positive discipline, because there are different types of certification for being a positive parenting educator. I chose positive discipline because of that word discipline. It's so interesting because I open my practice to everyone, but I let it be known that I have a neurodiverse and or Black family focus, right? And a lot of times, the other races will kind of get a negative connotation from that word discipline. What does positive discipline mean? But to be honest, a lot of my Black families kind of flock more to me because it's like, oh, it has the word discipline in it. So I know you're not letting your kids run all over you.
You know what? That makes so much sense to me. Look, if you want to market to Black families, put the word discipline in there. And they'll be like, okay, that's for me. That's what we do.
Because you know, you just have positive parenting. They just hear, you just married pops, they read it all over you, huh? But if you have positive discipline, it's like, okay, so it's not like you nice, but you still laying down the law. How we do that? And then once they get into my class, we can start rebuilding and getting ideas on, you know, how that looks. But yes, I do find that, you know, first of all, I find that most people think that positive parenting is just you being permissive parenting. And so then I do have to show the difference in positive discipline, having that balance of kind and firm. And then a lot of times people get surprised by some of the things that I say are positive discipline. Like, a lot of people like to ask me about siblings fighting, and I'll be like, well, one of the options you can do is to just let them fight and leave and let them handle their own battles, because they're siblings and they're going to be siblings for life. But if you keep interfering, then they're going to continue to get you to interfere. And they say, but what if they, you know, they hit each other? Well, you know, I'm going to be very honest with you. I definitely got into fights with my siblings, and, you know, we definitely put the paws on each other, but we figured it out. We don't hit each other now, you know. But then also you're going to be teaching all of the other principles of positive discipline, right? So you'll be teaching them problem solving skills. You'll be teaching. So eventually they'll work and start doing what you're modeling and showing with them. But yeah, I tell them I'll quit interfering. And they're like, but I have a baby. I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. Yeah. And you know what? As a person with a 2-year-old and a 3.5-year-old, we just had to save Paris instead of Riley, because Riley was like, I'm tired of you. What? So You know what? They'll be all right as long as you don't make them a victim. You don't want to have a victim and a bad guy, because people wear labels right on their sleeve.
Ooh, that is so good. That's making me think about my kids. Luckily, they don't fight yet because they got 2 and a 5-month-old. But I know
Yes,
it's coming one
it's
day.
coming.
I'm gonna sit back and watch. Be like, look, y'all got it.
Yes. Yes. So that's one thing is fighting. Children fighting is always a big one. Another one that I'm very honest with, a lot of people aren't, is that depending on how you want to positive parent, it is kind of a privilege. It is not something that is as easy to incorporate in your life if you are, say, a single mom, if you are, say, a small poor family, because there are a lot of things that I do, like the support accessories that I give to my neurodiverse children that not all families who have neurodivergent children may be able to have. You know, all of the sensory activities I do with my kids, the fact that my husband works 2 jobs so that I can be home with my kids, those are privileges. Do we have to budget? Absolutely. We have a very strict budget. Actually, me taking a break from Supernova Momma is always the hardest thing to think about and do, because that money helps to aid my husband in not being stressed about our budget. But at the same time, I made the conscious effort and decision to do this. So a lot of times, even that, getting the training and certifications. If you wanted to be trained on this, usually a class is anywhere from $100 to, if you want to do a private one family class, $400. If you wanted to, and that's if you want to be fully trained. The books are affordable if you're a reader, the person who can read and apply it, but a lot of people don't feel like they can apply it from that. And that's another part of why I do what I do, why I share videos the way I share videos, is because as much as we want to tell people, oh, you can Google, you can figure it out, you know, you can Google and figure it out. Everybody is not a audio. There's different learners, right? There's audio, there's visual, and I can't think of the hands-on learning. And so sometimes people need to see a hands-on version of connecting before correcting your child, or being kind and firm at the same time in limits and boundaries, or putting a timer on and how that actually works, and what words you should say to your child when you're trying to get them to go to a transition, or how to conduct a family meeting. Sometimes people need to actually see a video demonstration. And so I think that's where the disconnect comes in privilege. Because people will say, oh, you say poor people can't positive discipline. No, because technically I'm one step up from poor. We're working class. Let's see. I would say, even if you're middle class, it's still a bit difficult. But if you're a single mom with 2 kids and you're having to work full time, it is going to be very hard for you to continually keep up with their routine, to continually, you know, take the time to ask questions instead of telling them what to do, to get up extra early so you can ask those questions, so you can allow them to dress themselves, so you can allow them to pick what they want for breakfast instead of having something already pre-made, right? There's a lot of things that single moms do to make sure that they can get through their day, that adding on the things in positive discipline that allow for a child to be a little bit more involved and belonging and significant, but still it takes time. And a lot of people who are poor don't have extra time. It's not that they don't have the extra, the want, the need, the love for their child. A lot of them don't have the extra time. And so yes, positive discipline, positive parenting as a whole, you know, does have a little bit of privilege. What I try to do is I have sponsors who pay for people who can't afford my courses. And then we try to figure out a time that works best for them to do the courses. And then we try to work with them. What can you do? What parts of positive discipline do you think you can incorporate? What are the issues that you're having with your child, so we can feel the needs that that child is already displaying to you? Because you may not be able to do every part of positive discipline. You may not be able to do that routine chart, or you may not be able to do, but there's some parts that you can do, and making your household even a little bit more positive is important to me. So
Absolutely. Oh, I'm so glad you spoke to that part too, because I reflect on that a lot as well, especially about the mental load that I think people with privilege just don't have to carry. You
yeah,
know what I'm saying? Like, even like, I don't have, there's so much I don't have to think about,
yeah,
because I have so many privileges and luxuries. Like, I think with like positive parenting, for me, what I'm noticing is when I'm doing it, I have to be super intentional in the moment with my child, and like paying attention to like my reactions to things, or like how I'm feeling, and then what that means for how they're feeling, or like I just have to be a lot more mindful. But I imagine that if I was worried about like finances or housing or food or all of those things,
I can't
there's
be
no
mindful.
way.
I don't want to say I can't be mindful, but it's going to be really
It's
tough.
hard. It's hard because my priority is not there.
Yeah.
That's not my priority in that moment. My priority is like, well, we got to get this thing right now for our survival, or like this resource we needed. And so I just think I'm glad you spoke to that, because there is definitely some privilege to being able to just stop and think about these things. Yeah.
Yeah, because a part of positive discipline, at least specifically for my course, is your own self-reflection.
Yes.
So we do a part where I go through and we identify what your top card is, what we call it, but it's what you need when you're stressed out, what you think will fix the situation. For me, my top card is control. I feel like I need control when a situation gets stressful. If I can control it, then I can fix it, right? Some other people, it may be pleasure. If I can just sit down and chill out and get something that makes everybody happy, then we're good. If I can please everybody, we're good. For someone else, it may be superiority. You know what? If everybody would just listen to me, because I know what's going on, it will be good. And then there's comfort. If I could just get away from all of this, then we will be good and it'll be fine. So everybody has a different way that they deal with stress. We identify that. Then we start looking at having you reflect on what your triggers are and identifying your triggers.
Mhm.
Then we have you reflect on why those are your triggers. And then we have you come up with coping strategies, both in the moment and long term.
Yeah.
So that when you're in the moment and your child does something that triggers you, you have a coping strategy, whether that's the 5-finger breathing, or whether that's maybe you need more of an intentional coping strategy. So you need to jump and count, or you need to separate yourselves and go yell out on the porch, whatever your in the moment coping strategy is. And then we have long-term coping strategies such as meditation, yoga, taking walks, those different things. And we list them out and we identify which one the person thinks will actually fit them, not what looks good on paper, what, every therapist is telling you on internet surveys, what you think is going to fit the way that you stress. And then we go from there, and then we start talking about anger and how and negative emotions and how they're valid. And it's okay for not just your kids to have them, but for you to have them. Because if you're not allowing yourself to have them, then you're going to struggle with allowing your kids to have them. Same thing with making mistakes and giving yourself grace. So we go through a whole day of that with parents. How am I going to do that if I got to work 12-hour shifts? And then when I'm not working 12-hour shifts, I have to make sure the kids eat. I have to make sure the kids take a bath. I have to make sure they do their homework. Yeah. So, and then I'm always worrying about bills. I'm worrying about, the next thing. And then I may be trying to get out of this situation. So I may actually be taking online classes at night or whatever I'm doing. But it's very hard to not acknowledge the privilege that comes from being able to be intentional with your child and take time and spend time with your child.
Absolutely. Thank you for speaking to that part. And so I was going to ask you another question, and it felt like what you were saying was kind of speaking to this other question too. I was going to ask you, how do you work with moms specifically to make them feel more comfortable in how they parent? But as you were just like naming all those things that you do in the work, and I was thinking like, oh yeah, like if I knew my triggers, like if I knew the coping skills, if I was super intentional about all this stuff with someone to help me, walk through it, that would make me feel more confident in the moments when I'm feeling a little less confident, just with regard to how I'm parenting. So I wonder if that's how you think about it too, how you help moms and parents feel more confident in parenting.
So the biggest thing for me is grace. I
Mm-hmm.
tell my parents all the time, leave the guilt, shame, blame, and pain out of not just your parenting, but out of your self-talk. Because a lot of times we beat ourselves up.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's our voice or it's our mother's voice or whoever's voice is in your head, when you make a mistake, you beat yourself up. And when you give yourself grace, a lot of times we're not giving ourselves grace. Well, I was tired. Well, I'm not going to do it next time, but I was really tired that time. Or, oh, I'll make up for it. I'll make up. That's not what grace is. I made a mistake because I'm a human and I'm a mom and I shouldn't have done that. And this is what I'm going to do to make sure I don't do it in the future.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. Grace. You are going to make mistakes. There is no such thing as a perfect parent. That is it. I have been doing this for 3.5 years. Not a perfect parent. Not at all. My founder has grown children, has been teaching positive discipline, started positive discipline decades ago. Not a perfect parent. There is no perfect parenting. I actually kind of cringe when people call me a parenting expert. There aren't parenting experts. I'm a positive discipline subject matter expert. I am not a parenting expert. There's a different child, different culture, different families, so there isn't a parenting expert. So just give yourself grace and say, I did this, I yelled. I'm sorry I yelled. That wasn't very kind of me. Here's what I'm going to do to make sure that I work on yelling next time. I have these coping strategies mapped out, and I'm going to try this coping strategy so I don't yell next time. Now let's talk about what happened. You slammed the door and it triggered me. What can we do so that you don't feel like you need to slam doors anymore? Do you need to slam something? How about you slam something outside? Work on solutions. But that's what should bring confidence to most of my parents, is being the idea of understanding that you're gonna mess up and it's okay as long as you acknowledge it and work on a plan to stop it in the future.
Yep, I love that. I love it. What are some tips, free tips, resources that might be helpful for moms who are wanting to incorporate some of these positive parenting or positive discipline approaches into the parenting that they are doing?
Absolutely. Just for you, I have 3. The first one is connecting before correcting. And the best way I'm going to explain that to you is if your supervisor comes up to you and you missed, you copied 2 of the same sentences in a memo. Memo was great besides those 2 sentences. And your supervisor comes to you and says, Dr. Amber, what is this? Why did you do this? I can't deal with this. I need you to fix this immediately. Because I have to get this in. You made me look ridiculous. How do you feel? Terrible. Do you feel like you want to fix that? do you feel like you want to work for that person?
No.
No. If your supervisor comes to you and says, Dr. Amber, this was such a great memo. So it's sexually worded. However, I see that there's a sentence that was copied twice. Can you fix that for me immediately so I can go back in this meeting and let them know that it's good to go? How are you going to feel?
Like, oh yeah, girl, no problem. Of course.
Children don't need to feel bad to do better.
Ooh, that was so
You don't
simple.
need to feel bad to do better.
No, yes.
Don't need to feel bad to do better. So instead of yelling and fussing and guilting and shaming, you could say, hey, can you sit down? I need a hug. Can you give me a hug? How was school? Because I got a call from the school today, but I want to hear from you how you felt what happened. Okay, can I tell you what the teacher said? Okay, this is what the teacher said. Okay, what do you think is a solution that we can come up with, or that you can come up with your teacher, so that this doesn't happen again? You see what I'm saying? Instead of the teacher called and you've been acting up in school again. I'm tired of this. You ain't gonna do it no more. Connection before correcting. People don't need to feel bad to do better. Okay, that's one.
That was good. You just left us with that. That was enough. But keep on going, because this is good.
The second one is tell children, it's all children, honestly, but especially younger children, what they can do instead of what they can't. Okay. All day they hear, no, stop, get down from there. Don't do that. Don't touch that. No, stop, get down. No, stop. Hey, get down. Don't touch that. Don't do that. Tell your children what they can do instead of what they can't. Because no, don't do that. Stop, get down from there. You know, all these don't stop. And it tells me what I can't do. It doesn't tell me what I can do. And so I have to think about what I can do. And if I'm a cute, adorable, annoying little toddler, the next thing I'm gonna think about is still something you don't want me to do.
Listen, look, pause. My son, like, we can be getting into these stretches where he just continuously does these things that I have to say no to. And I literally, I be like, Cedric, you are making me say no so many times. And I'm always thinking about exactly what you're saying. I'm like, what can I tell him that he can say yes to? So this is reinforcing that for me. Cause I know, like, when we get into that phase of like, I'm not like, no, Cedric, can't do that. No, not that. Cause it's like, he's like, all right, not this. Well, this, mommy.
And,
like,
it's always going to be something else you don't want him to do. Okay. So the examples I give, though, is what you should tell them that they should do. Make sure they're getting the same thing out of it. So if they're jumping on your couch and you don't want them jumping on your couch, Cedric, please, we sit on the couch. You want to jump? Let's go jump on your trampoline in the playroom. Tell them what they can do. Kids are running in your house. Excuse me, we walk in the house. If you want to run, we can go outside at this time, whenever y'all supposed to go outside, and we can go outside to run. Excuse me, we sit in our chair. If you want to stand, you can get out of your chair and you can stand wherever you want to stand. But we don't stand in our chair. So tell your children, redirect them to if they're playing with water, they pouring water in their cup. Excuse me, we don't pour water on our cup on the table. If you want to pour your water out, you can get in that step stool and pour it out in the sink all day. Come on over here. Tell your kids what they can do instead of telling them what they can't, because they just gonna go and find something. They scientists. They just go, oh, I can't do that. Well, can I do this? And let me guarantee it's gonna be something else you don't want them to do.
Constantly. Okay, this was that was good too. This was good. This was amazing.
Okay. Number 3, practice asking instead of telling. Because when you tell people what to do, they don't feel power. And toddlers and teenagers are both going through a phase where they want to feel like they have some power in their lives. Okay. So you telling them what to do all the time, even with putting on their shoes. Can you put on your shoes? What shoes would you like to wear? Instead, here, put on your shoes. We got to go. It makes a world of difference. I'm telling you, because what happens when you put on your shoes? We got to go. I don't want to put on my shoes. I don't want to go. As opposed to what I do in the morning, I say, Paris, you want to wear a dress or you want to wear shirt and pants? I limit the choices, right? Because we're not going to be there all day, but I give choices. And she'll say, dress up time. I put on, and I say, okay, you ready to put on your dress? She puts on her dress. And then I say, okay, what shoes do you want to wear? And there's a set of shoes. And she picked the shoes. And I say, you need help putting them on? And she usually tell me yes or no. And then I have our little routine chart and I say, okay, what's next? And she brush your teeth instead of let's go brush your teeth. What's next? And then we go to brush our teeth and, what do you need for this? Okay. What would you like to eat? You want to eat breakfast or you want to, you want to play with the dollhouse? So I give choices, the limited choices that I can deal with, right? Because I ain't going to just say what you want to do in the morning. That can leave a lot of stuff open. No. I'm gonna say, would you like to play on your tablet while you eat breakfast, or would you like to do a puzzle before you eat breakfast? That I can handle both of those while I make her breakfast. So try asking more rather than telling, and it will help prevent a lot of power struggles that you are having with your toddlers and teenagers.
Tasha, these were so good, especially that all of them, honestly. But I'm still thinking about that last one. Ooh, rookie parent moves. We have been into so many power struggles with my toddler, and we have learned that as well to ask. And then that other part of like the limited choices, though.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
I've made the mistake of one time being like, okay, what shoes do you want to wear? And he's like, I want to wear these. And I'm like, those are not the ones you can wear because they're too small, or like some
Yes.
like,
Yes.
and those rain boots. And so like my child has gone to school in the rain boots in the sun because
Yep.
he wanted to wear the rain boots, and I didn't limit the choices. So I'm learning. It's like, all right, you want to wear the red ones or the blue ones?
Now, see, that's also another thing. That's the last piece of advice I'm going to give you. Your child is your own person, and sometimes you got to let them learn lessons, like how rain boots feel in the summer.
Exactly.
And who's it hurting? If they want, they just come back and they realize their feet real sweaty, and they probably ain't gonna wear them again in the summer. They learned the lesson.
Exactly. Right. That was my thing. I was like, look, you want to wear the rain boots? He's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, here you go, boo. He had a great day. He probably was slipping, sliding, falling all over the place. But look, it's fine.
Here's what Baby Shark costume outfit to preschool. What, Wednesday? It wasn't a holiday. The bus driver was like, "What's the holiday?" She wanted to wear Baby Shark costume.
Oh
When she came home, it was in her bag. So I'm guessing it didn't work out.
gosh. So my last question is for you to tell us where people can connect with you. But first, before we get to that, I do want to say I loved doing this episode with you. And even just that, like one thing I do love about you is like you help me, and I'm sure other people, to like bring the fun and lightheartedness into parenting as well. Like it helps me sometimes to like watch you, but also like to talk with you and hear from you to like remember to not take this so seriously. And so I really appreciate that about you. And so I want to thank you for that, because I need it sometimes because I'd be taking things too serious. But I can't do that in parenting because it will drive you crazy.
It will drive you crazy. And we all do. We all get stuck in this little mode. And sometimes I just be like, you just gotta, sometimes your kids be doing stuff and people be taking it personally. I be laughing. Like when I posted a video recently of Riley stumping her mad out. And somebody said, well, just wait till she turns 16 and she's still stumping. I said, better her stumping than hitting somebody or yelling at somebody. And if my 16-year-old is going around, I'm so mad, I'm gonna be dying laughing.
It would be hilarious. I would take that over the alternative, okay?
All day.
Oh, well, tell us, for those who don't know where to find you, where can we find you? Where can we connect with you? For mamas who want to like really dive in and work with you specifically, how can they connect with you?
Absolutely. So my website is supernovamomma.com. I offer one-on-one parenting for positive parenting. I also offer one-on-one for new parents because I cloth diapered, I baby wore, I did Montessori at home, I did all of those things. So for moms who are looking for those type of things, I do a one-on-one new parenting consultation. I have a 7-session course that I teach. It runs through the month, and it is amazing, and I love it, but I'm biased. And that next one will be in November. And that's available. I also have a private 7-session course for families who feel like they don't want everyone in their business. That is a very Black thing, and so I've noticed, and so I've just start offering that as an opportunity. It's a little more expensive because it's specifically for your family on your time, flexible however you need it, but that is available as well. And then I have workshops. I have a intro workshop that just introduces you to positive discipline. I used to charge for that, but it's moving to go free. More about that soon. It's going to be a free workshop. And then I have a specifically for Black parents, positive parenting workshop that introduces, and then a neurodiverse called Take Me As I Am workshop that specific for parents of neurodivergent children who want more information on how to support them in their support needs. And that's all on supernovamomma.com. I also offer a Common Corner printable poster set for Black and multicultural families, because most of the Common Corner research sources are for white children, to be quite honest. The few that are multicultural have Black people in negative emotions. And so, yeah. And so I decided to create my own. It is called the Cool Calming Corner. And it has a place for different emotions, different coping strategies. And then it has one that lets you child work through how they feel, what coping strategy they're going to use, and how they're going to feel afterwards. And then there's a poster that talks about the different stages of the brain when you are reacting to a situation. So your survival state, and then your emotional state, and then your executive state of the brain, and how that works, and why it's important for you to take time to deal with your emotions. And I love that poster set so much. I have fixed prices, and then I also have custom options for people who want the poster to look just like their child, or want specific coping strategies put into the poster. And lastly, you can find me on Twitter at Supernova Momma. You can find me on Instagram at Supernova_Momma. And you can find me on Facebook at Supernova Momma.
Thank you so much. You are such a gift, and we appreciate you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. I love what you do. Part of what you do is what inspired me to take a health break that I am taking soon this month. So yes, thank you. Thank you so much for what you do and how you inspire working moms to prioritize themselves, which is what I'm going to be working on this month. So yeah.
You are so welcome.
Yes.
Hey, Mama. Thank you for listening to the Balanced Working Mama podcast. If you love this podcast, please be sure to rate it and share it with another mama that you know. And don't forget to follow me and Balanced Working Mama on Instagram. I'll talk to you soon.